wife, who he would call his first lover, came from Ghana. Did you know that? My brother, my sister. Today, we're talking about a woman who was born on the 6th day of June in 1931. And she was born right here in Ghana. Yes, this beautiful country called Ghana. At the time, it was called the Gold Coast. The 6th of June, 1931. 26 years before this country became independent, she was born. My brother, my sister, when she was born, she was christened Sarah Francisca Sally. And when she got married to Mugabe, 30 years later, she became known as Sarah Francisca Sally Mugabe. This is the person we are talking about today. Today, my brother, my sister, she has earned the name in Zimbabwe, Amai. And Amai simply means the mother of the nation, Zimbabwe. If you are ready for the class, this is the African history class, and it will last 6 minutes. Now you see Mugabe here with his wife, Sally, in very good times. Beautiful woman. She was always dressed African. Not one instance did she dress otherwise. Always dressed African. She was born, my brother, my sister, as you were told, on the 6th of June, 1931. And she was born in the Gold Coast, present-day Ghana. It was then a British colony. She was a twin. Her twin sister was called Esther. And they were raised in a political family in the Gold Coast who supported Kwame Nkrumah tooth and nail to be able to push out the colonial master and take over the nation. My brother, my sister, she and her twin sister Esther were very well educated. They went to school at Achimota School, where they were so studious and they came out with flying colors. And then they went to study in the university. And right after that, Sally decided to become a teacher. Right after her university education. When she decided to become a teacher, she was posted to the Takrady Teacher Training College. My brother, my sister, in the Gold Coast. That was where she met Mugabe. Right at the Takrady Teacher Training College. When they met, Mugabe liked the way she spoke and the way she talked about Pan-Africanism, always dressed African and spoke about the future of Africa. He was drawn to her. They would spend long hours, in fact, even after school, talking about Africa and talking about how Africa must be able to rise to the top again. Mugabe was so enthused about the fluency with which she spoke the English language and also how deep she was. They started on a friendly note, and later it became quite romantic when Mugabe proposed. I remember that night. It was quite cold. It had just rained. My brother, my sister, the weather was so cold. All the teachers were in there doing their own thing. Some were drinking tea and some were keeping themselves warm with their partners. When Mugabe decided that he was going to move to Sally's room, he went knocking on the door, and when she opened, he held a bunch of flowers in her face. She looked at the flowers and she cracked a joke. She said, "Are you a European now? See, who taught you how to give flowers to women?" He smiled and said, "Well, I thought you Ghanaian women were more British than us in Zimbabwe. I brought it to you." And Sally cracked yet another joke. "What is the occasion?" And Mugabe said, "If you may permit me." One knee was on the floor. He said, "Please, would you be my woman?" Oh my God. My God have mercy. It was so cold. And Sally looked at him and said, "Are you going to propose love to me outside, or you want to come in?" Mugabe cracked a joke and said, "But I need to knock. before I come in. I hear you have a certain kind of thing here. When you are getting married, you have to knock. This is the knocking I'm doing. If you allow me into your room, then I will propose better. My brother, my sister, that was the beginning of the relationship between Mugabe and Sally. As you can see in this photograph. This photograph was taken in 1961. When our heroine for the day was exactly 30 years, Mugabe decided to marry her right there in Saudi Rhodesia, today called Zimbabwe. They got married, my brother, my sister, in April 1961 in Saudi Rhodesia, in the city of Salisbury. My brother, my sister, oh my God, look at the beautiful Sally Mugabe. So beautiful. My God have mercy. She was so respected in Zimbabwe. Remember, they got married in 1960. Until 1980, Zimbabwe never became independent. So they got married, and together 20 years later, before Zimbabwe became independent, with Robert Mugabe and the mother of the land, Sally, moving the whole country into independence. What an achievement! Brother, my sister, she was a trained teacher, and she taught at the Takrady Teacher Training College. She also campaigned for Robert Mugabe. She fought the white man to leave Zimbabwe so that they'll be able to take over. In 1957, when Ghana became independent, my brother, my sister, she was only 26 years old. 4 years later, she got married to Zimbabwe's very first president to be Robert Mugabe. Hey, it was full of pomp and pageantry. Mugabe loved this woman from the bottom of his heart. My brother, my sister, remember, our heroine was born in 1931. When was Mugabe himself born? If she was born in 1931, Mugabe was born in 1924. He was 70 years older than our heroine for today. My brother, my sister. Hey, they gelled so well. Everything was nice and good. Hey, the love was deep. They stayed together. My brother, my sister. And something interesting happened. While she campaigned with him to be able to free Saudi Rhodesia from the hands of the oppressor, my brother, my sister, they traveled to so many parts of the country to be able to preach. And then in 1967, 6 years after they got married, or better still, my brother, my sister, 6.5 years, Sally went into exile in London and resided in Ealing, West London. And when she lived in that country, she worked very hard to be able to take care of herself, whilst her husband was over there fighting to be able to free the people of Zimbabwe. Their lives were threatened, so Robert Mugabe asked her to move out of the country for the time being. And it's interesting, the way Mugabe made her go to England. At the time they were chasing the British from out of Zimbabwe, it was a paradox, my brother, my sister, but that was where she landed. Now, there was a charity founded in 1960, the year that she got married, and she spent the next 8 years agitating and campaigning for the release of political detainees in Rhodesia. Mugabe himself was part of those. When Mugabe was locked up, he advised her to move out of the country and live in England for some time. My brother, my sister, for her own sake. Now, they had a son, and the son was called Namo Janyika. Namo Janyika. I'll spell that. NHAMODZENYIKA. Namo Janyika. Namo Janyika, who was born in 1963. 3 years after she got married. Now, during this period of detention and imprisonment, Mugabe, my brother, my sister, was in prison. He suffered. He was arrested in 1964, just 1 year after the child was born. And listen to the interesting thing. Sally herself was arrested. And together, Sally and Mugabe were in prison right there in Southern Rhodesia because of the activism to free the country from imperialism. Together, they were locked up in prison. She had just given birth, but they didn't care. My brother, my sister. So the baby caught malaria. Namo Janiyika caught malaria. And while Sally was in prison, he died of malaria. Even though Sally was freed, their baby died from a severe attack of malaria. And he died in Ghana in 1966, 2 years after the imprisonment. Mugabe and Sally never had a child together again. And Mugabe's last wish was to have a child with Sally. He would always say, my dear Sally, even when she died. My brother, my sister. Mugabe was prevented from attending the burial of his own son in 1966. My brother, my sister. Sally's own father died in 1970, 4 years after the death of her son. My God have mercy. So Mugabe suggested that she went to Britain. That was when she went to England whilst Mugabe was in jail. Long story cut short, she ended up fighting even from England to be able to free the people of Zimbabwe. And it happened, my brother, my sister. Zimbabwe gained its independence in 1980. My brother, my sister, and Mugabe became the very first president of that nation. Of course, in 1978, she was elected the ZANU-PF Deputy Secretary for the Women's League. And in 1980, she had to make a quick adjustment to a new and national role of the wife of Zimbabwe's first black prime minister. She officially became the first lady of Zimbabwe in 1987 after Mugabe moved from the prime minister position to the president. When her husband became the second president of Zimbabwe, second president. Do we all remember Canaan Banana? We will find time and talk about him later. She was elected Secretary General of the ZANU-PF Women's League at the party's Congress of 1989. She also founded the Zimbabwe Child Survival Movement. Sally Mugabe launched the Zimbabwe Women's Cooperative in the UK in 1986 and supported Akina Mama Wa Africa, a London-based African women's organization focusing on development and women's issues in Africa and the United Kingdom. My brother, my sister, Sally Mugabe fell ill. She was suffering from kidney failure and she died on the 27th day of January 1992. Upon her death, she was interred at the National Heroes Acre in Harare, Zimbabwe, that her own husband had built. And the next grave there was supposed to be his own grave, Robert Mugabe's grave. This is it. Now find a photo of Black Rasta at the Heroes Acre. You will see me kneeling before the grave of Sally Mugabe. When I went to Zimbabwe on the invitation of Robert Mugabe, I went to the Heroes Acre, and there I knelt down before this grave and I prayed for Sally Mugabe as a native of her motherland. My brother, my sister, she died on the 27th of January, 1992 of kidney failure. My brother, my sister, buried at the Heroes Acre in Harare, Zimbabwe. And in 2002, to mark the 10th anniversary of her death, Zimbabwe issued a new set of 5 postage stamps of a common design using 2 different photographs, each photograph appearing on 2 of the denominations. She is remembered fondly with love and affection, as she is still considered the founding mother of the nation of Zimbabwe. Today we remember this beautiful woman. She left this country in the name of love, after this country was freed from colonialism and imperialism. She went to help the Zimbabweans. She became the mother of the nation of Zimbabwe. She helped Robert Mugabe, her spouse, to chase out Ian Smith and his people. And Zimbabwe became independent. She was loved. In fact, she spoke to the people of Zimbabwe. In fact, and when she spoke to the people of Zimbabwe, she was always asking them to embrace peace. She talked to them every now and then and asked them to be united as one nation. Today, we remember when Mugabe's son died, Mugabe cried. My brother, my sister, he cried whilst he was in prison.
Deposed dictator Robert Mugabe broke down in tears and asked for his dead wife and son before meeting army chiefs on Sunday after being ousted as leader of Zimbabwe's ZANU-PF party, one of his aides has told Mail Online.
Robert Mugabe wept in public several times when he remembered his wife. His wife was seen as the mother of Zimbabwe. And here you see me kneeling before the grave right there in Zimbabwe. In fact, I had gone on the invitation of Robert Mugabe, and this was the grave. I knelt down and I prayed for this powerful woman. Today we remember you, Mommy.
There are very many people who are lying here.
This is the voice of Sally Mugabe addressing Zimbabweans.
There are very many people who are lying here who are very great. They sacrificed a lot to bring Zimbabwe to all of us. Today we can walk freely in the streets of Zimbabwe without any harassment. Everybody can associate with anyone, white, black, green, blue. We all mix together. And we owe a lot to these people. So it means it's a symbol.
Oh my God. You heard a voice. Not two ways about them, Tindemana. Today we remember you, Mommy. And this is a photograph of me and Robert Mugabe when he invited me over to Zimbabwe to celebrate his birthday. And this is me bowing down before him and saying, Papa, why you be, Papa? Papa, me say, why you be what? He said, Ghana, please, did you bring me some kenke? Did you bring me kenke? That was what he said. Dokono, me pe dokono, my God. This is Robert Mugabe. And this is me holding his hand and bowing down and saying, Father, thank you for all that you have done for the people of Zimbabwe. This is the African History class. And today we remember you. Oh, Sally Mugabe, the mother of Zimbabwe. Mami, why you be what? Mami, why you be? Mami, me se une nyamenko wate. Mami, me se une nyamenko. Mami, me se menubeko. Oh, Mami. Yeah, Mami, me se menubeko wate. Mami, menubeko. Mami, famiko wate. Mami, me se menubeko. Oh, Mami. Mami, me se menubeko. Mami, me se menubeko. Mami. Oh, she risked her life. She was imprisoned when she had just given birth. Her son caught malaria and died while she was in prison. She was released and sent all the way out of Zimbabwe. She arrived with her son in Ghana, where he died in 1966. The same year Nkrumah was overthrown. 4 years later, her own father died. Oh, Sally Mugabe. Uninyaminko. Baba nawo. Baba nawo. Baba nawo. Uninyaminko. Uninyaminko. Minubeko. Minubeko wate. Mese minubeko. Minubeko wate. Minubeko. She died at the age of 60. And in the burden of knowledge, I ask you, now that you know, what would you do? Be an any ole mini obafe. Yezunda kagane mezaka yine. Ye papango bokaya nang. Fifi aye nyanu kai na wo. Bana ehu ebeye den. Bana ehu ebeye abade. Lele anjima singa bekone. Lele anjima singa beri. Oh! And when you look at the grave, you will see Amai written up on the grave, the epitaph. Amai means the mother of the land.